Welcome back to OllieGolf.com. I'm your host, David Agono, and today I am here with John Calabria. He is the Director of Golf at Fiddler's Creek in Naples, Florida. John, how are you doing today?
Hey, David, doing great. Beautiful day here, 82 degrees and sunny in Naples, Florida.
All right. So I know your question to your favorite golf course that you played at in the last year. So I'm going to switch it up on you and ask you your favorite hole at that favorite golf course that you played at in the last year.
Holy cow. Well, first of all, I got to remember what my favorite course was. Assume it was Fiddler's Creek.
No doubt, right?
No doubt. It's interesting that you say this because I was on a nominating committee here in town for the Naples Daily News for the 18 best holes in Collier County. And I nominated our 13th hole at Fiddler's Creek, a 170-yard par 3 to an elevated green, which is unusual in Florida, from an elevated tee, bunker in the back, two bunkers on the right, bunker front left, bunker back left, slopey Redan-type green with a bunch of crosswind usually. It is a really difficult shot and a wonderful hole, fair hole, but a wonderful hole. One of the best par 3s that I've ever played that's not a forced carry over a big lake. There's a small creek in front, but it's not an issue. So number 13 at Fiddler's Creek.
Okay. So before we talk, and I want to talk about Fiddler's Creek and some of the accolades that you've got within the past year or so, let's take a quick run down memory lane. How did you get into golf, and what are some of the things that you've learned in golf so far?
Well, I got into golf through my dad, who was a hard-working guy, but in his early years he had been an assistant pro at a club in Rochester, New York, my hometown, and one day he came home with some clubs, and we watched a little golf match, All-Star Golf, back in the 50s, dating myself, and got interested in it, and he got me started when I was 12 years old, 13 years old. We went out and played a few times on a Sunday, which was his only day off, and got started that way. So started with my dad.
That's awesome. You know, the more interviews I do with golfers, no matter what their role, if they're on tour, if they're a director of golf like yourself or a PGA guy, like it the relationship that they have with their fathers or grandfathers or uncles, whoever first got them into the game, it's awesome, and it lasts. It lasts so much longer than other sports where, say for football, for instance, where it's just like, I mean, you have like let's just call it a 15-year window of playing football, and then it's over.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
Golf it's forever. I mean, as long as you're willing to play it, to love it.
Yeah, I mean, my dad, that was 60 or 61, and so he was 45, and I was 12 or 13, and we played when he was 85 years old. So 40 years later, we were still playing occasionally. So yeah, it's neat. It's something, you know, it's a non-contact sport, which is good for all of us as we move along.
No doubt. So, like you mentioned, you're from Rochester, New York. How did you get down to Florida?
I grew up at a public golf course. My dad was just a hard-working guy, and I was a good student, but I really wasn't interested in that. I wanted to play golf, and there was a fella at the public golf course where I grew up named Carl DeCesar, who went to Florida State, and when he came home from college, my senior year in high school, he said, "Hey, the word is you're playing pretty good and you think you can kick my butt." And me being me, I said, "Well, Carl, I am playing, pretty well, but I never said I could kick your butt because all I can ever remember is you're kicking mine. But, yeah, I'm playing okay." He said, "Well, where are you going to college?" And I told him where I was going, and it was academic, and I really wasn't that interested in it. And he said, "Well, let's see if we can get you down to Florida State." And coach called me the next day, and we talked and gave me a scholarship to play golf at Florida State, which I did, 1966 to 1971. It was fantastic.
That's awesome. So you you go down to Florida, and obviously, I asked you what got you down to Florida, and I was like, as soon as I said that, I was like, yeah, Florida is probably one of the main places to be if you're a golfer, just in general. But tell us about your time playing golf, and then at Florida State, and just your playing career, and what that was like.
Well, it wasn't as good as I wanted it to be, but being a guy from Rochester, New York, where the weather was pretty chilly all but about 4 months of the year, to all of a sudden get to Tallahassee, which I since have figured out is a pretty cold place as far as Florida goes, but if it was above 40 degrees, I was out there practicing and playing with the goal of wanting to become a tour player, and I was fortunate that scholastically it was always easy for me, and I somehow managed to graduate, although I spent most of my time hitting golf balls, and then went on and tried to play till I was about 30 years old, tried to play for a living, and it was a case study in mediocrity. Never quite got over the hump, never quite got as good as I wanted to be, and met a lot of great players along the way who did become champions, like Fuzzy Zeller and Roger Maltby and a bunch of other guys that I played with coming along. Peter Jacobson, who's still a good friend. Fuzzy's still a good friend. But I never quite got to that level, and so was fortunate when I was 30 years old to get the head pro job at Brookley Country Club in Rochester, where I grew up caddying, and became the head pro there in 1978. And it was a great move for me to finally stop playing. Of course, the money back then wasn't as it is now. When you're approaching 30, it was time, if you weren't on the big tour playing at the big show making some cash, it was time to get yourself a real job. It's a different world now. I see guys going out when they're 32, 33, 34 and having success. But back in the day, there wasn't a whole lot of opportunity to make a lot of money playing golf if you weren't in the major leagues.
So that's an interesting insight. So tell us about your time as a club pro and just some of the virtues and some of the things that you learned just dealing with people, dealing with golf course management.
Yeah, well, dealing with people is what it's all about. Club pro jobs are different at every club, and they've morphed and changed through the years, but the ability to build relationships with as many members as you could based on honesty and integrity, treat members like brothers and sisters and mothers and fathers, depending on the age difference between you. But that was something I learned from a friend, and that's what it was all about. At a member-owned club, it was all about building relationships and making sure that they trusted you with their games and to run their tournaments and to handle needs in the golf shop. Back then the pro owned the shop, so that's what it was all about then. It still is now at many, many clubs, but the business has gotten so huge, and a lot of clubs own the golf shop now, and things have changed at various clubs through the years, but the constant fact is building relationships with people based on honesty and integrity.
So you're back at Brookhaven, and you're back home in a place that is, let's just safely say, colder than Tallahassee, Florida.
Yeah.
What was the next step? What were you thinking as far as progressing your career?
Well, the good thing was that the job ended the day after Thanksgiving, so I would have a big sale in my golf shop on the Friday after Thanksgiving, which is now known as Black Friday, and then pack up and head to Florida and be in Florida for December, January, February, March. And the PGA of America ran a bunch of golf tournaments for the pros to play in, and I would compete against a ton of guys from all over the country in those events, and it was a way to sharpen your game, make a few bucks, have a good time, and that's what I did. Did that every year from 78 through 93.
So that's, just to recap, grew up playing golf in the Northeast, which is, to say the least, a very, very seasonal deal. competitive. You get to play in college. Now you get to go back home and be a club pro at your local course. And after you do that, after the golf season, the good weather season is gone, you go back down to Florida and you play golf. What are some of we talked about relationships earlier. Your role as director of golf now at Fiddler's Creek, what are some of the similarities or, let me just say, common themes that you've learned just, I would say, even in college through to Fiddler's Creek?
Yeah, again, I go back to those two words, honesty and integrity. You know, a lot of my work now is done generating membership sales, promoting the club, promoting the members to have a good time when they're at the club, all about relationships. And those relationships are based on me being honest with them, caring about them, having my own personal integrity when asked the tough questions, not just giving the answer that they might expect would come from somebody, but rather give an honest answer based on personal and professional integrity. And that's all part of developing a club. We're in the developing stages now, and in order for me to build relationships with my members and help them become ambassadors and trust me to become ambassadors so that what I'm telling them they can pass on to their friends, that's the best way to sell memberships. Your current members and residents are your best salespeople, better salespeople than I can be, because they network with their friends, and that's happening now. I've been successful at that, and I'm happy to admit that's something that I have worked hard at. I just talking about it today with some folks, exactly that topic.
So, as director of golf at Fiddler's Creek, let's start on the high end, the glamorous end, if you will. What are some of the fun things that you can't believe that you get to do in your position?
Come in later than I used to, leave a little bit earlier. I have a great staff. I've always believed in surrounding myself with great people. I'm confident in myself, so I don't feel threatened by the people that I hire. I try to hire the best people I can find, PGA professionals. I've got 5 Class A PGA professionals working for me now and 5 apprenticed PGA professionals. And I've always subscribed to the theory that you empower your staff and you're only as strong as your weakest link or the weakest spoke in that wheel. So I have a wonderful head professional, and we're having our women's invitational right now, and he knocked it out of the park this morning. I got there and just oversaw what he did, just talked to some of the gals, and he ran the deal. It was beautiful.
That's awesome. Now, like I said, that's the high end, the glamorous side, if you will. And I don't think there's any glamour in that, just to be clear. I think that it takes work to implement what you just said. That's not something that you just have at an initial meeting and it grows legs of its own and it happens, right?
No, you have to work at it. It's like a marriage, you know. It's anything that you're successful is it's constant thinking, constant effort, constantly assessing, being lucid, all those things. Yeah, you have to. I enjoy it. You have to do that. Well, that was a good comment, good question there.
So let's be honest. And I'm always honest. I know that you're always honest, but I feel like I can ask this question 100% certainty. There's a lot of guys and gals out there that take courses or are done with their playing career that want to be in a position like yours. It takes time. It takes an uncommon work ethic. What does success look like? Obviously, success looks like you in your position, obviously. But I'm sure that you've been around other directors of golf around the country, and not just in Florida. What does success look like? If I'm freshly graduated from one of these PGA management courses, degrees, what do I need to understand about success so that one day I can be at a Fiddler's Creek and come in later and have a great staff around me?
Yeah, that's interesting. Success is definitely not sitting around and saying, wow, if I got it great and collecting a paycheck and playing golf every day. Success is not that. Success is being happy in what you do, being happy to get up in the morning and look forward to going in this morning like I did. I actually got in earlier today to meet and greet our women, make sure everything was good with my staff, and then when they were all on the golf course, make sure that things were being done on the practice facility that needed to be done while nobody was using it. So success is, loving what you do. That's what success is. Find something that you love. I mean, if I was a young man and I had to become a CPA and sit at a desk and crunch numbers at tax season like it is now, I would go out of my mind. I'm not capable of that. But that's success for other people, and they're good at it, and they're great at it. But my success is being immersed in what I love to do, and that's golf and dealing with people and dealing with the staff, and it's just what I enjoy doing.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think a lot of us we get disillusioned with what success is, or maybe more accurately, how to get there. And a lot of it comes.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely. I interrupted you only because, and I know you know this. It's the journey. It's not the destination. There's no end game. There's no end game. I had a great professor in college that gave me, for me, the secret to my life, and that is the goal of human existence is happiness. Those were his words, and I'll never forget them ever. And I think we talked about this previously, but the goal of human existence is happiness. This guy was a great, great guy, professor of religion, a one-handicap golfer, loved to drink scotch, had a Porsche convertible, taught me how to drive fast. I had a lot of respect for him. Brilliant guy. And he taught me that in college when I was 19 years old. Never forget it.
That's awesome. So, could you say, and we're being somewhat big picture here. Has that been your secret sauce as far as just focusing on what makes you happy and understanding that the enjoyment comes from enjoying the journey?
Bingo. That's it. Exactly. If I don't like what I'm doing, I don't do it. I'm done. I'm not doing this. Not going to happen. Can't commit to it. I'm not doing it. Same thing applies to teaching and playing. If I'm teaching somebody and they're not getting it, which I don't teach now, but occasionally I'll give a lesson or I help the people that work for me, I just change it up. It's got to be working right now. Right now. Let's go. Hurry up. It's got to be making you happy right now. And if it's not making me happy, I'm not doing it. It's not going to happen.
Yeah. It's funny because, we're talking about this and it sounds so simple. But I feel like it's made to be so hard. We want to talk about productivity and talk about apps and talk about programs and all these things that we want to, dare I say, outsource or delegate to other people when it's a choice. If you really love what you do, you put in the time and you figure out the best, I don't want to say the best path, but almost a path of least resistance to you resisting and doing it.
There you go. That's good. I could have never said it like that, but that's it. That is it.
Awesome. So last year, you were named the 2013 Florida State Senior Honoree by your section, South Florida section. What does that mean to you? I mean, you've had a very illustrious is one word, but I would say very satisfying career, life in golf. To get that honor at the end of last year, I mean, what does that mean for you?
Well, it gave me an opportunity to talk about somebody else. And I talked about Bobby Goodman, and that's the fellow that the award is named after. The Florida State honoree is the Bobby Goodman Award. And Bobby Goodman was a fantastic golf professional, and I got to be able to get up and speak about him. I was not going to talk about myself, and I'm not going to talk about myself now, but I talked about Bobby, and it gave me an opportunity. He has been gone from this earth for a while, but I talked to one of his friends about him, and he shared a story with me that Bobby owned this 9-hole golf course in Hollywood, Florida. He was driving into work every day, and he kept seeing this fella walking barefoot in shorts and a T-shirt every day, and carrying a brown bag. And he wondered, who is this guy? What is this guy doing? And then one day in February, cold snap came through Florida, which we get every once in a while, and it was cold as heck and blowing like heck. And Bobby Goodman's driving into work and sees this fella out on the road walking on the sidewalk, barefoot, shorts, and a T-shirt with the brown bag and it's freezing out. It's 35 degrees and blowing. So Bobby stops, says, "What are you doing?" The guy says, "Well, this is all I got, man." So Bobby gives him his shoes, gives him his sweater, gives him his jacket, and tells the guy to come on down to Hollywood Golf Club the next morning. I got a job for you. Well, they became best friends. This guy became Bobby's green superintendent for 35 years and eulogized Bobby and how much he loved them at Bobby's wake. And to me, that's what the award was about, being able to talk about Bobby Goodman and the story and how he affected somebody else's life in such a positive way. So I'm a huge believer in affecting others' lives.
That's awesome. 35 years?
Yep, 35 years they were together. Can you just picture this guy, and he was an African-American, homeless, walking down the street, freezing his ass off, no shoes, shorts, and a T-shirt. And the part I forgot was in the brown bag, Bobby goes, "What's in the bag?" He goes, "That's my juice, man. That's my juice. It keeps me warm." Well, he was a wino. So Bobby said, "You throw that bag away tomorrow and come see me." So Bobby got him off the juice, gave him a job 35 years later. Isn't that cool? I just love stuff like that.
That defies explanation. I can't tell you how many people would literally kill to hire somebody that will last 2 years. And we're talking about through Monster.com, through references, through whatever. He hired this guy off the street, and let's just say he wasn't dressed for an interview.
No, but that's old world values. Hopefully they're not dead. Hopefully they're not. Back in the day, club pros stayed at their clubs for years and years and years and years. So, 35 years these guys had a relationship, working relationship.
That's awesome. So we talked a little bit about Fiddler's Creek, and like I just said, you were named, you received an award last year. What are some of the things in South Florida at Fiddler's Creek that you're trying to have take off this summer?
Yeah, no, that's good. Well, we are in the process of really expanding our development. We have 3 large parcels of land with a bunch, as in hundreds of home sites on them, that it appears we are negotiating to sell those parcels of land, and look forward to building a second golf course and a separate standalone golf clubhouse. And that's what keeps me motivated, is to help with the site plan, to help with the routing, and maybe a little bit of the design of the second course, hiring the architect, selling the memberships, working with the realtors and those developers to get the word out about how great our golf club is and how we treat people. And that's what keeps me going. I'm 66 years old, but this keeps me going, and I want to help my owner and the folks that I work for in the corporate structure to be successful. I think I have something to offer them, and I think they recognize that. They keep me around, and I'm looking forward to it. We're growing like crazy. We're selling homes like crazy right now.
Yeah, I mean, I can only imagine just the buzz around Fiddler's Creek as you're gearing up for a new chapter in the court's history.
Exactly. That's exactly it.
So I have two more questions for you.
Yep.
My next question is, now you just said, we just said that you're starting a new chapter, turning it into a new chapter. It's trying to get some more home sites in there, possibly get a new golf course and just improve on what is an awesome foundation there. The bare bones of that, the day-to-day aspect of that is that there's a lot of work that needs to go into that. There's a lot of moving parts that you have to manage and make sure that they are in working order. How do you manage your time? You mentioned earlier about having a good team around you. What are some ways that you manage your time as you go from, not to steal from Jim Collins' book, Good to Great, but how do you go from very good to greater?
Yeah, no, well, it is a team. It's not just me. That's the managing of the time is I've been doing it for so long. It's not that difficult. It's having good people. We've got a great owner, a great CFO, great legal team. My boss, the GM, is great with numbers, great with budgeting, great with pro formas. We put a pro forma together for some things last week, and he's fantastic with it. I couldn't even, he's great at it. So we, get together and share ideas, brainstorm, if you would, and no, that's how you do it. And developing a golf club is work, but you get the right people doing the right things. It's a challenge. It's a good challenge. Growing it all, and there's so much that I don't even know about that's going on. The infrastructure is going in for these new developments, and there's people out there doing that work, and there's legal work that goes on trying to close these deals, and it's a big deal. This is a big corporation, so it's I'm just one little part of it all.
Well, I know that you're saying that you're one little part of it all, but I think that you have, and I know we've talked about this before, and I love talking about it. I think your ability to relate and connect with, whether it's members or a CFO or investors or what have you, I think that's a great skill. I think it's a core competency that no matter if you're a grocer or you're a PGA golfer or you're a director of golf or you're the president of the United States, it doesn't matter what you are. If you can't relate to people, it's kind of hard to get big things done.
Well, yeah, it's I've had a lot of experience with it. And I go to a local restaurant here, and the waiter is a friend, and he treats us great, and I let him play the golf course in the off season, and then turn around and I played with the Speaker of the House and movie stars and all this kind of stuff too. So it's, I don't know, people are people. Everybody wakes up and goes to bed, and they just want to be treated nice. You got to treat others like you want to be treated. It's pretty simple.
No doubt. Well, my last question for you. And again, thank you for taking time out to do this interview. I know that you're a busy man, and you have a lot on your plate. What is one piece of advice for not just, like we said, there are guys graduating who want to be in golf management, but just somebody who is that accountant that we mentioned earlier, who's going into their job and they love their job, but they're sort of staggering. They're sort of not loving the process. What is one thing that you would advise them to maybe re-energize that love for what they do?
You rarely stump me. I got to tell you, my advice is move on. Time to move on. Move on. Maybe not a career move on, but move on to a different job. Look for a different job. Look for a different setting. And if that's not the answer, then I talk to my kids about this that work for me. We talk. If they're having problems, I can read it. I can see it. And it's time to reassess. I had a young man today that came in and wasn't shaved, and he's been caddying at another course on his off days. And I said, I love you. You can't show up looking like this. You need to get upstairs and shave. I said, I'm afraid you're starting to act like a caddy. Not that a caddy's a terrible job, but you're a PGA professional. You get up there and shave. So, I read that and I look at him, and later we talked, and he's not happy with what he's doing. He wants to be a teaching pro. And I said, well, that's what you got to go do. Get out of here. You don't need to be doing this. Do it for the rest of the season and, pursue what you want to do. So that's my advice. If the signs are there, it's time to move on. It doesn't mean necessarily stop being a CPA. Maybe get into, some sort of financial management, personal finance, something. Just move on. Morph around that. But if you're not happy, something's wrong.
I have to admit, that question, it came out of my mouth. I was like, oh, man, I don't want to put you in a corner. But you answered
that was a good one.
You answered that question in a way that I think that is the most important the second most important part of this interview, because so often, we feel like we have to do something that we don't want to do, and all it does
don't do it.
Don't do it. That we do mediocre. And
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I hate it. Ahead. I hate it. I hate mediocrity. I can't stand it. Expect perfection and accept excellence. That's the deal. And you can't let yourself get painted into that corner. If you're working for some company and you're not happy sitting in that cube, man, you got to do something else. You got to be looking. You got to be out there, which goes back to what you're saying about the whole modern thing with the monster.com and stay at a job for 2 years and all that stuff. My advice is immerse yourself in your own life right away. Sounds egotistical, sounds self-centered. Immerse yourself in what you love right away and chase it. Just chase it. Don't get sucked into doing what somebody else wants you to do.
Yeah, you never cease to amaze me. Let me just say that. I did not see such a great answer at the very end of our interview. John, this has been a blessing. This has been awesome.
Well, you're a great interviewer. You lead me into the answers, so it's not just me. It's a two-way street, my friend.
Well, I appreciate that. I just, I marvel at how I can ask a question that is sometimes, I guess, depending on who asks it and the intent which they ask it in, can be boilerplate. But this has not been a boilerplate conversation at all. I'm in awe. I appreciate you being candid.
Well, thank you. Thanks.
I think most people would have answered that last question like, oh, well, you got to go back to the drawing board, work harder. And that's not the answer. Usually not the answer.
It won't do.
Cool. Well, John, I appreciate you coming on, and I appreciate everybody for being a part of this interview.
Terrific. David, thank you, my friend.